My in-laws tried to control my marriage, family drama you won't believe. I thought marriage was about love and partnership. But my in-laws had other plans. The perfect wedding with cracks beneath. I always thought marriage meant partnership. Two people, side by side, building a life together, making decisions together, choosing each other above all else. When Daniel and I stood at the altar, exchanging vows under soft candlelight and the gaze of everyone we loved, I believed in that promise with my whole heart. But what I didn't realize then was that our marriage wasn't just about Daniel and me. It was about his parents too, at least in their eyes. The first signs were subtle. At the rehearsal dinner, his mother, Evelyn, pulled me aside. She looked stunning, as always, in a deep emerald dress that seemed to outshine my own white gown. Her smile was gracious but tight. "Marriage is hard work, dear," she said smoothly, pressing my hands in hers. "Just remember, Daniel has always needed guidance. He's sensitive. Sometimes he doesn't make the best decisions on his own." I nodded politely, though something in her tone unsettled me. It wasn't advice, it was a warning. His father, Richard, was less direct but no less controlling. During the wedding planning, he insisted on choosing the venue, family tradition, he called it. Then came the catering, the music, the guest list. Every time I tried to assert myself, he'd chuckle condescendingly and say, "Don't worry, sweetheart. We know what's best." Daniel brushed it off. "That's just how they are," he whispered, kissing my cheek. "They mean well." But the words that should have comforted me only planted seeds of unease. The wedding itself was a blur of flowers, laughter, and vows. For one night, I allowed myself to believe that love would be enough, that Daniel and I were strong enough to navigate anything. But reality came crashing in faster than I expected. The morning after our honeymoon, Evelyn showed up at our apartment unannounced. She breezed in carrying groceries, rearranged the fridge without asking, and commented on the state of our laundry. "You'll need to keep a better routine," she said, folding one of Daniel's shirts as if she owned the place. "Men can't live in chaos. And Daniel, bless him, he'll never take the initiative unless someone guides him." I stood frozen in the doorway, my suitcase still unpacked, the glow of our honeymoon already fading. Daniel just laughed nervously. "Mom, please give us some space." But she ignored him. Richard's intrusions were different, but just as invasive. He wanted to help with our finances. One evening, he sat us down with spreadsheets and lectures about investments, savings, and responsible spending. He questioned every purchase we had made, even the couch we had chosen together. "This isn't how you build a stable life," he said firmly, tapping the table with his pen. "You need oversight. We'll take care of the big decisions until you're more mature." My cheeks burned. We weren't children. We were adults, married, building a future. But in Richard's eyes, we were incompetent kids playing house. At first, I tried to be polite. They were family, after all, and I didn't want to create tension. But the more I yielded, the more they demanded. Evelyn wanted a key to our apartment, just in case. Richard wanted us to consult him before making any major choices, like furniture, vacations, or even what kind of car we should drive. Daniel remained caught in the middle. He loved his parents. He wanted peace. And sometimes, when I confronted him about their overreach, he asked me to be patient. "They just care," he said. "They're used to being involved. It'll get better once they see we can handle things." But it didn't get better. It got worse. The final straw, at least for me, came 3 months into our marriage. We had been searching for a new place, something bigger than our cramped one-bedroom apartment. Daniel and I spent weekends browsing listings, talking about neighborhoods, imagining where we might raise kids someday. Then one evening, Evelyn and Richard invited us to dinner. Over dessert, Richard slid a folder across the table. Inside were documents for a house. A beautiful, spacious home on the other side of town. "We've already put in the down payment," he announced proudly. "This will be your new home." I blinked at the papers, stunned. "You bought us a house?" Evelyn clasped her hands together, beaming. "Isn't it wonderful? It's close to us, of course, and it has a lovely garden. Plenty of space for when you start a family." I swallowed hard, my chest tightening. But we didn't choose this. We weren't even consulted. Richard's expression darkened. "You should be grateful. Do you know how many young couples struggle? We're giving you a head start. But it's not your decision to make," I said, my voice rising despite myself. The table went silent. Evelyn's smile froze, brittle as glass. Richard leaned back, his jaw tight. Daniel shifted uncomfortably, caught between us. Maybe we should. No, I cut in firmly. This is our marriage. Our life. You don't get to control it. The ride home was quiet, heavy with tension. Daniel gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white. They were just trying to help, he muttered finally. Help? I snapped. By making the biggest decision of our lives without even asking us. That's not help, Daniel. That's control. He sighed, exhausted. They don't mean it that way. It's just how they are. I stared out the window, my chest aching. And how long are we supposed to live under their rules? Because I didn't marry your parents. I married you. That night, as I lay awake beside him, I realized the truth. If we didn't set boundaries, if Daniel didn't choose us over them, our marriage would never truly belong to us. And for the first time, I wondered if love alone was strong enough to survive the shadow of his parents' control. A marriage under siege. Evelyn and Richard didn't back down after the house incident. If anything, they doubled their efforts, as though my resistance had only confirmed their belief that I couldn't be trusted to handle marriage on my own. 2 days later, Evelyn showed up again, this time with a casserole in one hand and a folder in the other. She placed both on the counter like she owned the place. I've drawn up a weekly schedule for you, she said cheerfully, spreading the papers across our kitchen table. Meal plans, cleaning rotations, even reminders for bills. It's important to establish order early in marriage. I stared at the neat columns of tasks, color-coded and highlighted, each line dictating how I was supposed to run my home, my life. I don't need this, I said carefully, keeping my tone calm. Oh, nonsense, Evelyn replied, brushing me off. I ran my household perfectly for 30 years. Daniel turned out wonderful because of it. Trust me, you'll thank me later. Daniel shuffled in from the living room, rubbing his neck. Mom, but she cut him off with a wave of her hand. Don't argue. A woman needs structure if she's going to be a good wife. The words burned. A good wife. As if I wasn't already one. As if my worth was measured by how well I could fold laundry on her schedule. Richard's interventions were less domestic, but no less invasive. One evening, he cornered Daniel in the living room while I was washing dishes. You need to think long-term, I heard him say. Retirement funds, career choices, insurance. I've made some calls. You should consider switching jobs. Better benefits, more stability. I dried my hands and walked in, my chest tightening. Excuse me? Daniel's job is our decision, not yours. Richard looked at me as though I were a child interrupting grown-ups. I'm simply guiding him. Marriage is about responsibility, and I won't watch my son throw his future away because you don't understand financial planning. Heat flooded my cheeks. With all due respect, Richard, it's not your marriage. It's ours. He leaned back, his voice calm but laced with steel. You'll realize soon enough that you need us. Without guidance, you'll make mistakes that cost you everything. Daniel sat frozen between us, his loyalty tearing him apart. The pressure didn't stop at our home. Evelyn started calling daily, sometimes multiple times a day. She wanted updates on everything. What we ate, how often Daniel slept, even when we planned to start having children. One afternoon, while I was working from home, she called again. Are you taking care of him properly? She asked bluntly. I blinked. Excuse me. You know Daniel. He forgets things. You need to remind him to eat well, to rest, to focus on his career. A man can't carry the weight of marriage without a strong wife guiding him. My grip on the phone tightened. With respect, Evelyn, Daniel is not a child. He's capable of making his own decisions. There was a pause, then a soft, pitying sigh. You're young. You don't understand yet. But you will. She hung up before I could reply. I sat there shaking, fury simmering under my skin. The tension began to seep into my relationship with Daniel. Nights that once ended in laughter now ended in arguments. Why won't you stand up to them? I demanded one evening, tears stinging my eyes. Why is it always me fighting alone? Daniel ran his hands through his hair, his voice weary. Because they're my parents. They love me. They just don't know how to let go. I shook my head. Love doesn't look like control. Love doesn't suffocate. And if you can't see that, then maybe you're letting them win. His eyes flashed. So what do you want me to do? Cut them out of my life? Pretend they don't exist? I want you to choose us, I whispered. Because right now, it feels like you're still theirs. Things came to a breaking point when Evelyn and Richard invited us over for dinner one Sunday. I was reluctant, but Daniel begged me to come. It'll be easier if we just go. The table was set lavishly, silver polished to a mirror shine, candles flickering. Evelyn greeted us with her usual smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Richard poured wine like a king entertaining guests. But halfway through dinner, the real purpose of the evening revealed itself. "We've decided it's time you two started thinking seriously about children," Evelyn announced, setting down her fork. "You're not getting any younger, and we want to make sure we're still active enough to help raise them." I nearly choked on my wine. "Excuse me." Richard nodded solemnly. "We've even set up a savings account to prepare for it. Once you move into the house we bought, everything will be in place." I dropped my fork onto the plate with a clatter. "You don't get to decide when we have children. That is between me and Daniel, not you." Evelyn's eyes narrowed, her voice dripping with disdain. "You're being emotional. Marriage is about responsibility. If you can't see that, maybe you're not ready for it." The room went silent. Daniel's face paled, his lips parted as if to speak. "Daniel," I said, my voice trembling but firm. "Say something." He swallowed hard, his gaze darting between his parents and me. His voice faltered. "Maybe they're just trying to help." The words cut deeper than any knife. I stood, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Help? This isn't help. This is control. And if you can't see that, then maybe you're not ready for marriage either." Evelyn gasped softly, clutching her pearls like a villain from an old movie. Richard's face hardened, his eyes cold. Daniel reached for me, but I pulled away. "I'm done with this dinner." And without another word, I walked out into the night, my heart shattering with every step. That night, I didn't go home. I stayed at Claire's, my best friend's apartment, curled up on her couch as tears soaked her pillow. "You can't live like this," she whispered, brushing my hair back. "You married Daniel, not his parents. If he can't separate from them, you'll never be free." Her words sank deep into me, like seeds of a truth I had been too afraid to admit. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering if love was enough when your marriage was a battleground for someone else's control. And for the first time, I realized the choice might not be mine alone. Daniel would have to decide, his parents' shadow or our life together. Drawing the line. The night I left dinner at Evelyn and Richard's, something inside me shifted. Up until then, I had clung to the hope that love alone would be enough, that if Daniel and I just stayed strong, his parents would eventually back down. But sitting on Claire's couch, my face swollen from crying, I realized the truth. Unless boundaries were drawn, my marriage wasn't truly mine. The next morning, Daniel showed up at Claire's door, dark circles under his eyes. He looked like he hadn't slept. "Please," he said as soon as I opened the door, his voice raw. "Come home. Let's talk." I let him in, but my arms stayed crossed as we sat on the couch. "You didn't defend me," I said quietly. "You sat there and let them dictate our lives. You let them insult me, control us, and you said nothing." Daniel buried his face in his hands. "I didn't know what to do. They're my parents. I've spent my whole life trying not to disappoint them. And what about me?" My voice cracked. "Your wife? You vowed to put me first, Daniel. Do I not matter as much as they do?" He looked at me then, eyes brimming with tears. "You matter more. I don't know how to break free." I leaned forward, my hands shaking. "Then learn. Because if you don't, you're going to lose me." The following week was tense. Evelyn kept calling, leaving voicemails dripping with indignation. "I don't know what she's told you," one message said, her voice sharp, "but we're only trying to guide you. She's young, impulsive. Don't let her ruin everything we've built for you." Richard left a message too. "Son, you're being manipulated. Marriage is about family, and family means your parents' wisdom. Don't let her drive a wedge between us." Every message felt like poison seeping into our home. I told Daniel he had to make a choice, silence the calls, or risk losing me. For 2 days, he avoided it, torn in half. Then, one evening, he turned his phone off, placed it on the counter, and said, "I'm ready." We invited them over for dinner, neutral ground, our apartment. I cooked, though my stomach was knotted with dread. When Evelyn and Richard arrived, they swept in like royalty. Evelyn with a tight smile, Richard with a judging glance that scanned the room as though cataloging our failures. We ate in brittle silence until Daniel set down his fork, his hands trembling. "Mom, Dad," he began, his voice low but steady. "We need to talk." Evelyn smiled sweetly. "Of course, dear. We were just about to bring up." "No." Daniel cut her off, his voice firmer. You need to listen. The air thickened. My heart pounded as I watched him straighten his shoulders. This is our marriage, he said, gesturing between me and himself. Not yours. You don't get to dictate our finances, our home, or when we have children. Those decisions belong to us. And if you can't respect that, then you won't be part of our lives. Evelyn's face paled, her lips trembling. Daniel, how can you say that to your own mother? After everything we've done for you? Richard's voice boomed. You're making a mistake. She's filling your head, turning you against us. Daniel shook his head. No, she's reminding me what it means to be a husband. I chose her, and I'll keep choosing her, even if it means losing you. The silence that followed was deafening. Evelyn's eyes filled with tears, but they weren't the tears of heartbreak. They were the tears of someone who had lost control. Richard clenched his jaw, fury radiating from him, but he said nothing more. Finally, Evelyn stood. If that's how it's going to be, then don't expect our help. Don't expect us at holidays. Don't expect us at all. Daniel's hand found mine under the table, squeezing tightly. If that's what it takes, then so be it. They left without another word, the door closing with a finality that echoed through the apartment. When the silence settled, I turned to Daniel, my chest tight. Do you mean it? Really? He nodded, tears streaming down his face. I'm terrified, but I meant every word. You're my family now, and if they can't accept that, I have to let them go. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. The weeks that followed were quiet but healing. Evelyn and Richard stopped calling. Word spread through extended family that we were estranged, but I stopped caring what anyone thought. For the first time, our apartment felt like ours, not a stage for someone else's performance. Daniel and I rebuilt slowly, brick by brick. We learned to talk through decisions without outside voices. We celebrated small victories, buying a couch without Richard's approval, planning a weekend trip without Evelyn's input. It wasn't easy. Some nights, Daniel grieved the loss of his parents' presence. Other nights, I cried from relief that I no longer felt like an intruder in my own marriage. But together, we found balance. Months later, sitting on our balcony under the stars, Daniel took my hand. Do you ever regret it? He asked softly. I shook my head. No, because now, when I look at us, I see us, not them. He smiled faintly, pressing his forehead to mine. Then maybe, for the first time, we're really married. I kissed him, tasting salt and hope. And as the night wrapped around us, I knew one thing for certain. Love doesn't survive by surrendering to control. It survives by choosing, every day, against every obstacle, for each other. And finally, we had chosen right.